Hello. How are you guys doing today? Welcome in today to the live Sunday Live with Crystal, the one and only. Welcome to a Legacy of Love ministry. Please like, tag, and share this video. I would greatly appreciate it. I would like to say that I was trying to tag some people, you guys. Um, own the copyrights to the music playing in the background. I do not own the copyrights to the music playing in the background. And also, I would like to let you guys know that all three of my books are still available for ordering. The I'm sorry, you guys. I was trying to hold on. Let me see if I could do this. I think I'm gonna be able to do it, you guys. How are you guys doing today? I pray that you guys had the opportunity to get out and get some word. Because listen, life be life, and as my bishop just getting said today, life be life, and right, and that's for almost all of us. If it's not life for you right now, trust me, it will be life for you sometime or another, right? And so I want to welcome you to, again, a Legacy of Love ministry, Crystal King Iwoma. And I wanted to also let you know that I still have all three of my books available for ordering. My first book is actually a prayer journal. It's a 31-day prayer journal, God's Love for the Grieving Widow. Again, this one is for widows only. It's God's Love for the Grieving Widow. It's a 31-day prayer journal. And so if you know someone that is a widow, you can bless her with it. You can order it from myself or either through Amazon, and I would greatly appreciate that. Again, it's a 31-day prayer journal for widows. Also, I would like to tell you guys about my YouTube page. My YouTube page is God's Love for the Grieving Widow as well. And it's not for widows only. It's for everybody. It's for for everybody, whoever wants to go on there. I usually upload my Sunday lives on my YouTube page. So please go over there, give me a like, give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down. Please subscribe. And, that would help me a lot. I'm trying to get enough subscribers that I will be able to be monetized. And so that would be great for me. It would be a lot of help to me if you were to go over and subscribe, like, engage. Even on Facebook, if you engage back to me, that would be great as well, because I love to get the feedback. It's what helps me to be able to come on each and every week to share with you guys my testimony and my journey of my life right now that I'm living. And so my second book that is still available is There is Beauty in My Brokenness. This one is telling the story of where me and my late husband, where we met until death did us part. Again, it's the story of what he went through his last week here on earth until he transitioned into heaven. And so again, There is Beauty in My Brokenness. And then my third book is No One Plans to Fail, but Many Fail to Plan, Divine Direction and Connection. This one is telling the story of me going through probate after losing my husband unexpectedly, and just letting you know that all that I went through that could have been prevented. But listen, God wastes nothing, right? He wastes nothing for his children. He always causes all things to work together for the good of those who are called according to his purpose and for his plan that he has for us, right? And so this one right here is telling the story of what I went through, and how God just blessed, how he put people in my path. He connect the dots for me in order for me to be able to get this done, accomplished, and completed, with me getting my trust done and completed, with me actually getting the house into my name, due to my name not being on the house, is why I found myself in probate. And so I would like to say, as a disclaimer, that I am not a lawyer, I'm not a paralegal. I am just simply someone sharing my real life story with you all, and wanting you to avoid it at all costs of what I went through and what I'm still experiencing today, 4.5 years later. And so I wanted to come on to just kind of reiterate a little bit about the message today, how my bishop, Jesse Giddens, was teaching on spiritual warfare and a warfare period, and how the difference between the warfare that we face each and every day. And he was saying, giving an example as, when you have, sometimes people can get it confused on what warfare is and what it isn't. And so as he was talking and teaching, he was saying that, when we go, when we have a flat tire, or if we have our washing machine breaks or different things like that, we're quick to say that that's the devil, right? And so he was explaining that no, that's not the devil, but when you're at work, or if you're having odds with your coworkers or your spouse or your children, that's warfare. So he was just giving an illustration of the two differences. And as he was speaking, I was just sitting there thinking to myself that he was saying, how the enemy says that he is rolling around to see who he can devour. And so the Bible also says that the very elect will be deceived. And so you never know. I'm considered as an elect. So that means that it's a possibility that I could have been deceived, or could be deceived, right? If he says the very elect will be deceived. And so as I was sitting there listening to him, I realized and I recognized that there has been an attack that has been trying to get me into depression. And it's just like, I don't know if it's because I have had some friends that had lost their spouses, and that's hurtful to me to hear. When people lose their spouse, it kind of puts me back in a place of the grief. I carry that grief for them, as well as I carry the grief because I know how difficult it is to lose your loved one. And so that may be what it is. It may be that Father's Day is coming, and without, sometimes unconsciously, you can start feeling some type of way when those special days come up. And so I don't know what it was, but I know that it has been an attack from the enemy. And so I just thank God for my bishop bringing that back to my attention, to rank me back in, to say, you know what, devil, you're a liar. And, I am not going to fall into that um, temptation of, oh, woe is me, right? So it's a fight, absolutely, that you do then when you get up every morning, especially if you're challenged in your body, like myself, you're challenged in your finances, like myself. There are so many other different things that are happening in the world that irritates me and bothers me, right? And so I was just talking to one of my friends, and I was saying, it's something when you've been struggling with prayer, you've been struggling with communing with God. And sometimes when you're in grief, those things just tend to come up, and it just happens. I don't know, you could not be grieving and still not spending time with God the way you should, not praying the way you should, not getting in your word the way you should. And that's what really helps you to be able to kind of get out of that grief when He brings a good word to you to remind you, first of all, who you are, who you serve, and how good He's been to you. If you just take the moment to go back and think, because sometimes the enemy bombards us with the things that God did not do for us, as such as He did not save that loved one. And maybe another one was, was able to recover from a sickness. And so he starts throwing these darts at you of different things of, how come God, you did it for that person and you didn't do it for me. And then you feel like you did something because it wasn't done for you. And so sometimes it's just something that you go through. I guess it's natural because we still live in a body, right? And so we still live in a fallen world. So we kind of have these challenges where we have to juggle them. Sometimes we get a little off, we drop the ball, and we get a little off course of who we really are, who we serve, and that God is sovereign. And so as I was listening this morning to another sermon, I had always, I looked at it like I would call on the God of Rohi. And I said, you know what, you see me. And so it was brought back to my attention again today that God, you see me. No matter what, you see me. You see me, you hear me, even if I think that you don't, because your word says that you would never leave me, you would never forsake me. So you have to see me, right? You see what I'm going through. You know the challenges I'm having in my body. You know the challenges I'm having in my spirit that I'm fighting. That fighting that depression, fighting that being down, and just with I don't know, sometimes it's just the season, but I trust God that I won't stay here long enough to want to turn back to um, not knowing and trusting God to continue to keep me in His grace and in His mercy. And I just thank God for the word that went forth today. And I recognize when he was just saying, sometimes you have to recognize the difference between if it's something spiritual, if it's a spiritual warfare, or if it's just, life, right? And so, as he was saying that, it's a saying that me and a friend of mine have. And I said, I recognize when there's a demon on assignment. And so I can look at that person and say, you know what, that right there, okay, that conflict right there, that's a demon on assignment. And I recognize you and I'm going to call you out. And so, I do recognize that. So when he said, he's been in the word a while now, that he knows. And as he was speaking about the different people that come in the church, so you look at the church like a hospital. So you have all of these sick people that are coming in, right? And so they're coming in with all of these different things. And as he explained it today, it was like, what you have, this person, you have witches in here, you have people that don't serve God, people that serve God, people that are just showing up. And so it's different when you have somebody actually say that, especially a bishop or a pastor, that says that, that brings it to your attention, because we're, as a people, are very judgmental. People are judgmental, especially when it comes down to the church, right? They can give their money for football games, they can give their money for basketball games, but when it comes down to the church, there's an issue and there's a problem. And so you wonder how, when he said that, I was like, you know what? He brought that thing all the way home, because he's saying, listen, these are the people that's in the church. And so I think what happens is, when you know maybe your family member may be that person that's not right, or that's not living right, or that might be dibbling and dabbling in witchcraft or different things like that, you know that. But I think that people don't think that the bishops or the pastors know that, but they know that. I mean, the Bible tells us that those things happen, but we don't ever think about it like that. We just kind of think, we just put them all in the category of everybody is like that, or everybody is every pastor is a cheater, or every pastor is, just wants your money and all of that. We put them all in that same category. And so that's why it's so hard sometimes when people come to the church to, if they come in, if they're walking in that door, because there's a struggle when there's a stronghold on people that cannot, when God is warning them to come, but it's a stronghold, such a stronghold that they can't even go to the altar when the altar call comes for them, right? And so because you have some people that are there that are praying against that, and sometimes it just, it just prevails, and it just, the person is so bound that they can't get up out of their seats and get to the altar so that they can accept Christ and see the goodness and experience the goodness of Christ, right? And know what he did for us. As we were taking communion, I was thinking about that as well, that God, I was just saying, God, you bore my sickness and diseases on your body. You were beaten, you were, just trampled over. Your body was, your face was unrecognized. Your body was unrecognized like meat, just beaten. So Lord, I'm standing and I'm doing this in remembrance of you. At the same time, I'm doing this because I know what you did for me. You said that I'm healed, I'm whole, I am fully healed and whole. And that's what I just said. God, I am taking this communion today, believing and trusting you, that because of what you did on Calvary for me, that I stand in a full healness in my back, in my body, Lord, in the name of Jesus. And for others that are standing and believing, God, that each and every day find themselves faced with racking pain in their bodies, believe in God that God is going to deliver us, that he is going to heal our bodies. He said that you're healed from the top of your heads to the soles of your feet. And so you have to keep standing and believing God that he is true to his word. Sometimes I think about this and I think, I don't understand why, if he did that and he went through all of that for us, why do our bodies have to go through the racking pain, hurt, diseases and stuff? But it's because we live in a fallen world. It's because of what happened with Adam and Eve. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when we cross over to the other side, we will feel no more pain. There will be no more tears to have to be cried. There will be no more death. And so there is going to become a time where that is no more. This grief, this hurt, this pain, this crying, this, losing, death. He's going to say, death, where's your sting? Because at the end of the day, we win. regardless to whether we're still on this side or we're on the other side with Christ, if we've accepted Christ as our Lord and Savior. If you have not accepted Christ as your Lord and Savior, then you will not be able to experience this. And so you want to accept Christ as your Lord and Savior so that you will be able to experience eternal life. And so I just I just thank God for his goodness, his mercy. I thank God for adopting me and his family. And I know that there is something after this, there is so much more after loss, and that we won't even, we will only experience nothing but love, love, love. As I was talking to one of my friends, she said, we all say that our spouses would not come back if they could. And so, because they have experienced death, and that's what we're almost all afraid of. But once you've experienced it, like I know some people that would say that had near death experiences, that they're not afraid to die. And so my mom had said that before as well because she had an experience, and so she's like, "No, I'm not afraid to die." And so, and speaking of that, me as I transition into talking about getting your affairs in order and in place, I first would like to say that I am not a paralegal. I'm not a lawyer. I'm simply someone sharing my story, as I stated when I first came on. But my mom had started having some sinus problems, and so she uh, decided to take some medicine. And so she took two of the pills, or she probably took three different things, and so it made her so sleepy and groggy. And I had never heard my mom sound like this. And so my new adopted sister next door to her, Janice, she had went and she said, I was so afraid. And as I was talking to my mom, and then my uncle had called to see, how was she doing? And he said, I heard that your mom was sick. And so that put me in a frantic panic, So I'm like, oh my God, my mom can't be sick, right? And so you guys know that we celebrated her birthday about 3 weeks ago, her 90th birthday, and God has just been good to her. He has renewed her strength like the eagles. He's just been so gracious to her. And so that was a scare, but it brought me back to the realization of how we don't expect things to happen. And so I have a niece that had surgery, had two surgeries last week, and it was unexpected. And so that's why I come on here and I talk about the unexpected things that you have, how important it is to have your power of attorney, because she had two very extensive surgeries. And I thank God that she made it through them, but they were unexpected and they weren't like small surgeries. They were very serious surgeries that she has. She still has a way to recovery, and I'm just praying and believing God for her total healing in her body, in the name of Jesus. I'm praying for her. I'm praying for other people that have just lost their spouses, and or maybe a loved one that you have just lost. I was watching a young man on social media that lost his wife, and I believe he said he's 24 years old. I'm not for sure, but I believe he said, I'm a 24-year-old widower. And I thought to myself, my God, I've had people tell me, you know what, we're going to get our stuff together, but we're young. We're just in our 50s. We're in our early 50s. Well, my husband was only 54 years old when he passed away unexpectedly. And so That's why I come on here to tell you the importance of getting your affairs in order and together, because in the event you become incapacitated or you pass away, then and you don't have these things in place, it's going to be very difficult for your loved ones to be able to carry on with life. And so, I don't know, something just popped up and said something, I'm not for sure. But um, but yeah, just make sure that you look into getting your power of attorney. For those of you that may rent and different things like that, if you rent, um, or if you own property, then I would suggest that you look into getting you a revocable living trust. They do have a irrevocable, but I'd speak to someone that legally that you could speak to about that. But you most definitely need to look into getting your power of attorney. If you are a renter and you have an income, you have a job, Social Security, your retirement, things like that, you want to make sure that you have your power of attorney. You want to make sure that you go back and check your bank accounts and make sure that you have beneficiaries. They kind of changed the name now to PODs, which mean paid upon death. And then those, that way, if you have that down for all accounts, go back and check your accounts to make sure that have those things in place in the event that you become incapacitated. If have a heart attack or stroke or something and you survive it, and you're just kind of thinking, well, I have, um, them down as a beneficiary, but in the event that you are incapacitated, you need to have your power of attorney. You need to have your durable power of attorney healthcare advantage, so that if you were to be incapacitated and the doctors, and you don't have that in place, the doctors will not, they will make the decisions for you. And so you need your power of attorney in case you become incapacitated and you need your loved one to continue to pay the bills for you, to continue to make the decisions for you. And being incapacitated does not mean that you're incapacitated forever. God does heal. He's still in the healing business. And so he could still heal you, but in the meantime, you want someone that you trust, because that person will be able to have access to your bank account and your home and different important things like that. So you want someone that you trust to be your power of attorney in the event that you're incapacitated. And so when you have your power of attorney as well, you can have that person can say, hey, go to the bank while you're alive and be able to take care of your business for you, um, in the event you become incapacitated. If you have your revocable living trust, that clause is in there as well, that you would have your power of attorney, you'll have your pour over will, you'll have your health care directive, and those things will be in the trust. So if you were to become incapacitated, it covered it within the trust is covered that your loved one will be able to take care of the things for you. But while you're alive, while you are in your right mind and you could do everything yourself, then you're full control over your revocable living trust. You can make any changes anytime you want to. You're able to make those changes. And so you want to look into that. For those of you that have, I always like to talk about people that have passed away already, if you've lost your loved one already, and you've had that person down as your beneficiary, it is important that you go and remove their names. If you have experienced a divorce and you still have your loved one down and you may be remarried, they're going to take that the person that is down as the beneficiary will be the person that will be able to trump all of this. So make sure that you have your beneficiaries who you want to get, you know, your money, because there has been a lot of people that have had divorces and remarried and never thought to go back to the bank and change those things. And then when the person passes away, the spouse thinking that they would be able to get their spouse's benefits, and it goes to the ex-spouse. And when it goes to the ex-spouse, then um, depending on how your relationship was, I've met people that have said, I'm not going to give the family anything. I'm not going to give them anything, even to bury, to lay them to rest. So that you can have everything decent in order and put together, go ahead and make those changes, especially if you were in the military and you had that DD 214. You want to go back and change it, because sometimes people have their parents because they were in the military when they were younger. And so they have their parents down as the beneficiaries, and they're now married and they never thought to go back and change that and correct it. Now that your status is different. So if your status is different, either way, go back and check those things so that you can make sure that your money goes where you want it to go, and that your loved one, have you a letter written down of instructions on what your wishes are, as far as, do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be laid to rest? Have the hard conversations. I know that it is hard, and we don't want to talk about it. We don't even want to think about, we can't fathom the thought of losing a loved one, right? And so I wouldn't have never in a million years just thought that I would lose my husband. Even though we were married for 34 years, it still was not enough time for me. And so we don't think about it when we stand before God and say, until death do us part. That part kind of goes out the door, right? So, but he's already laid the footprint that that's going to happen. We're going to experience it. And so that's why it's just so important that the laws are different now. And so if you're in California, check your law to see, check your state to see what your laws are. Because some people are saying, well, I'll just get a TOD, which is a transfer upon death. But you have to be careful with that. I don't know. It may transfer the house into the person's name when they pass away. But then what happens after that? Are they able to sell the home with no problem? Or, you have to make sure that you don't have your taxes reassessed. And so if you have already experienced the loss, again, because I know I talked to a lot of widows, and you may be in a position that I was in, as far as not having your name on the home, or not having your name on the bank account. There is a form that you can get. It's a small affidavit. And again, I'll say check your states, because different states are different. So California, if you can do a small affidavit, a state, I believe it's anything under 188,000. But I know I have a friend that's in Maryland, and I believe theirs is only 50,000. So your ancestors are more than that. And so you will find yourself, your loved ones will find themselves in probate. And so that's what you want to avoid. You want to avoid probate. The whole purpose and reason why you would get a revocable living trust is to prevent probate. It does not cover you from, if you're sued and different things like that, but you can look into getting a homestead for that, but it does cover you from probate. So what happens is if you open up a probate and you find yourself going to court, that's what opens up all of the other things that people can do. So there are people that work every day looking to see who is in probate and how can they get their money, especially if you owe people money. So, if you owe people money, then, that's the way that they can actually get their money back. When you have Medicare recovery, um, if you don't open a probate, it's a possibility that you do not have to do Medicare recovery. So, you want to just cover yourself in all angles. But again, back to that, if you've had a loved one that you lost and you went to the bank and um, you went to the bank or you went to see about their car or something. This is a small affidavit that you can do. Well, I won't say car because you can't do a car, you can't do a boat or a house. But if there's finances that are out there that they tell you, well, you have to go to probate because your name was not on this bank account and there was no beneficiaries, there is a affidavit for small collections of personal property that you can fill out, and you will be able to get your loved one's money as the next of kin. And so remember this because I've navigated several widows to do this because their name were not on the bank accounts of their spouses. And so, and even I've talked to people who had parents that they lost that they were next to kin and they were, could have got it and they walked away. And so this is where my heart is that our loved ones don't just walk away because you're not educated and because you don't know what to do because of um, probate sounded so hard and difficult to deal with that you just walk away from what you guys have your loved one has worked so hard for. I know that my kids probably would not have known what to do. The probate process, the finances that you have to have for it, the equity that they take out of your house, the court papers. You're normally in probate anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years. It's not a quick process at all. They will keep dragging you back to court. I experienced it myself at least 5 to 6, 7, I believe maybe 7 times that I went back and forth to the courts before the judge to be able to get my name on the home. And so, listen, this all can be avoided if you just take the time. And I know that the cost and time and reality and procrastination is the problem. But we have to take the time to get it done. Once you get it done, it's going to be done. Like mine is done now. I don't have to worry about that. Only thing I was thinking about was I was talking to another widow that had was asking me. She said, I don't know where my husband's royalties are going, and I've been calling the publisher, and she hasn't returned my call. And so that made me think, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. I didn't think about adding my royalties to my trust. And so I said, I didn't even think about it. And I don't know if my kids would have even thought about like that was an income, So we want to take the time to write down every last one of our bank accounts. Um, no matter what, whether it's the credit union, the bank account, all of the secret bank accounts, write it down. Write down your social security number. I say this all the time. I'm amazed at the widows that I have met that have been married over 30 something years and did not know their spouse's social security numbers. Write those passwords down. If you do digital for your phone, thumbprint, or your face, if you pass away, then your loved one will not be able to access that phone. If you pay all of your bills through the phone or through the email address, and that loved one doesn't know what to do to carry it on. I was talking to someone, and she was saying, hey, I have my stuff automatically taken out. And I was thinking, that's good, but I can't do that because um, I'm not in a position to have my house note automatically taken out or any of my other bills besides my life insurance, my car insurance and stuff. And so I was like, you know what, if when I get in that position, other than me trusting and believing God that my mortgage will be paid off before time, but when I get in that position, I'm going to do that because that will give your loved ones a little time to, get it together. I just thought to myself, okay, if my kids, if I was to lose them, because guess what? Every bill is going to still be due. Nothing is going to be not due because you done passed away. So they're still looking for the house note. They're still looking for every bill that you have generated. They're looking for it still. So if you have it where it's automatically taken out, that will give your loved ones a little cushion to say, hey, if you have that money in the bank to pay the house note, let it go through automatically if you can afford to do it. So then, while your loved one is trying to get your service together, trying to, you're not in your right mind when you lose your loved one. And so you kind of like, I don't be wanting to pay bills now, right? And so can you imagine if you lose your loved one and you're still trying to afloat like everything is normal and it's not? And so sometimes we can get behind on things because I've gotten behind on things. And so you want to be able to have it where it automatically come out if you can do it. It's just a great help for that loved one. I have a friend that uh, had a sister had like a stroke and she became incapacitated. And her husband didn't know nothing at all. Her siblings didn't know nothing. But thank God that that she had the automatically payments come out for the house note, for the utility bills and different things like that. And guess what, you guys? She got her healing. She came back. She didn't know what time it was, what year we were in, but she got her healing and she's back to normal. But that just goes to show you how they wouldn't have known what to do. You can't call the bank because you don't have your power of attorney, you don't have your things in place. And so we panic sometimes when things happen. We panic and we think we're going to the bank or we're going to talk to this person about what has happened. But what they usually do is actually they lock up the bank until after your account, until after the probate has been done. And so you can't do anything. All of your money and everything is locked up into your bank account until after you have finished the probate. And so you'll have your loved ones having to go to court while you're still alive to say, hey, you know what, my loved one is incapacitated, but I need to have their portion of the house note or their portion of the rent. And can I get it? And they're going to tell you, well, no, no. So you have to have your power of attorney so things will go smoothly. Because listen, Like I said before, my mom, she got sick. My niece had that surgery. She had two surgeries. And just even though my mom, she was having allergies and stuff, but she had taken some medicine that really had got her down. It just made her go to sleep, and she couldn't wake up. And then when she did wake up, it was just, she was just falling asleep, sitting up. And so it just got word that, oh my God, that my mom was sick. And so she's doing much better now. But that was a scare. And so that's another illustration of how we never know. We never know when the vicissitudes of life will happen to us. So that's why it's important. And again, once you get it done, you don't have to revisit this again, not unless somebody passes away or you feel like you want to go and change something, but you want to go ahead and get it done. And for those of you that may say, well, you know what, I don't want to go through all of this. I'm just going to add my kids to my house. I'm just going to add my kids, to everything. I'm going to add them to my bank account so that I don't have to deal with it and they could just do it. But you're putting yourself at risk, because in the event that your children, if you have your children on your house as on the deed or on the bank account, and that child gets sued, they can go after your bank account and your house because that person's name is on there. So what you want to do is you just want to have them as, beneficiaries. You want to have them as PODs, which is paid upon death. You want to make sure that you have, it's just two different, it's the same thing, but they just kind of change the words of things now. The professional people use different names for different things. Just like we use different words, it could be the same word, but you use it in a different way depending on what setting you're in. But you want to make sure that you have it on all accounts. Again, try to avoid by putting your loved ones' names on the deed, on your home, or on your bank account. There's ways that it can just transfer. Those of you that may have disabled children and you say you put them down and you have them down as beneficiaries and they've inherited that money and there's a probate open. And so you don't want to make it where your loved one cannot receive their benefits any longer. So you want to have it in a clause in the trust where it's covered, where that money and stuff will stay in the trust that they inherit, that they can make, transactions throughout the trust versus giving it to them and because they're going to lose their benefits. And I am a living witness that once you say you get an inheritance, and most of the people that get an inheritance are, as far as finances, they're broke in the first 2 years. And so you want to make sure that you don't just be like, oh, well, that person, oh, well, they're, they've inherited this money, but they're not going to be able to receive their benefits from Social Security because they've inherited this money. And so, you can only have so much money. So you want to make sure that you put it in the trust so that that loved one won't, have to have their benefits stopped because there's only a certain period of time that you will run out of that money. And so another thing is important to do is look into mortgage protection. I hear it's very, very expensive. I did call and look it up and it was less than $200. And I just thought to myself, wow, I mean, if my husband was paying the note, I surely could have paid the extra $200 and that would have paid our mortgage off for that insurance because the mortgage company, the bank, they cover themselves with their insurance, but it's not the insurance that will cover you if something happens to you. If you're with your loved one, if something was to happen to them. So mortgage protection, it covers you also if you become incapacitated. It's worth looking into to see, um, about getting some, or either getting some life insurance that's significant enough to pay off your house. And so I did not know that. I was not educated. I was not informed that that would have been a good idea. Me as a stay-at-home mom, entrepreneur, still kind of struggle with that a little bit today, but I am here now to inform and to educate you to look into these things because there's going to be a loss of income, whether it's your loved one. Some people may live with their parents. Some people may live with their children. Some people, there's going to be a loss of income in the event that someone passes away. So, can you afford the mortgage if that person passes away? Is a question that you can ask yourself. Will I be able to make it if that person passes away and I don't have that income anymore, whether it be Social Security, whether it be your retirement check? So, all finances that come into the home, um, is great, but there is going to be a loss. So you have to ask yourself, because only you know, will I be able to sustain and stay here, or will I have to relocate? And so, like I said, I speak to many widows and widowers as well that have had to relocate because they couldn't afford to stay where they were staying. But if we got some insurance that would cover where we're staying or a significant amount, that would at least, help you along the way. Because if you're under 50, if you're under 60, then you can't get your benefits. So widowers, males as well, get their spouse's benefits, but you have to be 60 years old unless you're disabled, or if you have children that are minor children, then you're able to get the spouses, you're able to get their Social Security. Otherwise, you have to be 50 with be 50 and disabled, but you have to qualify for that. So I applied for that several times and was denied, and finally was able to get it. But other than that, if you're a young widow, you're in your 50s, you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, you will not have an income if you were to lose your spouse, because you cannot get their money until you turn 60 years old. And so that's something that a lot of people don't know. They just think that you automatically get it. And so they're starting to call the Social Security office and stuff, and they'll tell you, hey, you're going to have your one lump sum, and that's $255 that they call a lump sum. But it's really supposed to be for a burial. I heard that it's been $255 for at least since the 1800s, they said, or something. So you guys know Congress needs to up that. That is ridiculous, especially when you can't get your spouse's money right away. So if you are 60, or you can get their retirement, but if they have something, there for you. But other than that, you have to just kind of take in consideration, will I be able to do this without him, or without her, to be able to carry on? But if you put some things in place, put away some finances, to prepare for, if you can't do life insurance because you may have a sickness or illness where they won't allow you to have it or qualify for you to have it, or it's so expensive, I would suggest that you look into paying for it ahead of time. Because if you pay for it ahead of time, then you're more clear in your mind. I spent a lot and I was not clear Um, I don't regret it, but I do know that I was not clear when I was making the decisions to lay my husband to rest. And so, if you do it ahead of time, it's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper if you get it done ahead of time. Then you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about your loved ones trying to figure out how how are they going to lay you to rest in the event you don't have no insurance at all. I have met widows that had spouses did not tell them that their insurance was no longer, um, available, and so they check, have the hard conversations, talk to your spouses, say, hey, listen, how are we? Are we good? Are we covered? Do we have some life insurance? Have them show you what you got. Are we good with the mortgage? Are we good with the payments, with everything? Because I know someone that um, was almost could have had wiped out. Well, they didn't have insurance any longer, not even on themselves. The insurance policy had the spouse had stopped paying it. She didn't know they didn't have any insurance. And then there were bills that had accumulated so high that it's unimaginable. I can see where if you had insurance, almost all of the bills that were delinquent would have taken that insurance policy. I'm talking like light bills, 4,500, gas bill 3,500. So how it got that high like that was because during COVID, people they gave you that grace period that you didn't have to pay it, and some people took advantage of that, but you had no idea. So can you imagine losing your loved one and you find out when you have to take over the bills that all these bills are due, and so how are you going to pay them? Or even if you did have the money to pay them out of the insurance, can you imagine 4,500, 3,500, and then $20,000 for some tickets that were not taken care of? And so, if you just add that up right there, how much? That's almost half of your insurance policy if you had a policy that's like, $100,000 only. And so that's why now they're saying that you need policies that's almost $1 million policy. I remember when we first got insurance, that was over 35 years ago. And so back then, it was doable. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is good. But now you don't even think about your insurance, that the cost of living goes up so high that a $50,000, $20,000 policy, it won't do nothing for you but cremate you. Probably that's probably it. You can't. I was talking to someone about the flowers that I had. I didn't even have a lot of flowers. I only had one spread that was running like $800, and I was like, okay, maybe I moved down to the smaller spread that was like $500. So you're just talking about simple things like that we don't think about, but we can now that we're hearing me talk about it. Just want to stir you up to say, hey, you know what? I think we better look into this and try to get some of these things done because Crystal, I've seen what she's went through. Some of you on here have seen and know what I went through. Just to have to keep going back and forth to court. And so you want to have an alternative too. Again, if you have your thumbprint or your fingerprint or your face print on the phone, because a lot of us have to try to get in our spouse's phones, right? And so I was trying to get into the computer. I had it broken into, but then I was like, okay, I don't know what's the password to that. I had, our alarm system, our television, our cameras, everything was in my husband's email address. And so, you know how when you want to reset something, it's going to keep going back to that phone. It's going to keep going back to that email address. And you can't get in it if you don't know. So that's why it's important to just get a piece of paper and write those things down. Write those ATM numbers down because, again, I've said I've had a lot of widows that I had to navigate how to move some money because once they find out the person is deceased, they're gonna close it and nothing is gonna, you're not gonna be able to do nothing. You don't know that you can fill out that form. A lot of people don't know that they can fill out that form where they were able to go and get their spouse's money from the bank. Sometimes the bank is kind of a little nice, you know, if you go up there with the death certificate. They were nice to me, some of them, but the investment accounts, they were like, we can't do anything about that. And they didn't tell me what I could do neither. So it's just, I just waited on God to navigate me on what to move on next. But very well, all of the my husband's credit debt could have fell on me. And so that's why I was pushing so hard to get the house in my name because I knew that they could have put a lien on the house. They could have pulled the loan from me because we had just purchased our home 2.5 years prior to losing him unexpectedly. And so I was just scared and terrified that I would lose the home. He had a helicopter bill that was $70,000. His medical bills was $100,000, and it's very, very scary. And so it's important too that you kind of watch when your loved one is sick, how you filling out those papers and stuff, because here in California, you know, they tell you because we live in a community property state that they can say they want their money, you know, out of the estate in advance. So that's why it's so important that you go ahead and get a trust and look at that trust as a safe that keeps what you want safe inside of that safe. And so a couple of people have asked me, okay, well, what does that mean to fund the trust? So the fund the trust means that all your assets that you have that is considering finances and different things like that, your LLCs, your businesses and things, you want to put inside the trust, even if you're partners with someone else, you want to put your portion inside there because guess what? If you with a partner, you have that LLC, you have a business with someone, and that person passes away. And then guess what? They dog out that spouse that passed away. They say, I don't want to be in business with you because I was in business with him. Okay, well, they can take, you know, you guys can find yourself in probate or they can take your portion. So you want to put your portion of your business inside that trust so that your family will be secured and, you know, will be secure because they can do that. They can say, you know what, no, I don't want to do business with you. I did business with your spouse. And so you want to make sure that you cover yourself, you know, at all hands. And again, remember if you have a disabled child and you do not want to say, I want all of this to go to that disabled child because you have to have somebody else over that disabled child. And so they can, you know, misuse the money. And then if they inherit it, if you leave it directly to them, then they won't be able to receive their benefits any longer because they have inherited this large amount of money. So you want to make sure that you don't mess up their benefits by doing that. But you can put it in the trust, and then the trust, you can have it in the trust how you want it to be, you know, how you want it to go. Like some people will say, again, I'll say the first 2 years, usually people have ran through their inheritance within the first 2 years. They're broke or they've sold the house already, or they've lost the house already in the first 2 years. So you can't say, hey, I don't want my house sold, or um, I don't want my 18-year-old to get all of her money at that time or all of his money at that time. You can't break it off and say, okay, at 20, you get this amount. At this, if you go to school, if you go to college, if you do what you're supposed to do, in the event that you go to jail or you do something you aren't supposed to be doing, then this will not be administered to you. And, until you get in a program or something like that, you write the stipulations down, what your wishes are. And again, even with what do you want? Do you want to be laid to rest? Do you want to be cremated? Do you don't want to? My son, I remember him saying, "I don't want to be cremated," and I was like, "Let me tell you something, honey." He's married now, but I said, "Our mama can't afford to carry you no more," and so it's important that now you look into getting insurance for your children and for yourself and for your spouse, because it's important that it's just too expensive to lay someone to rest, and with the cost today, it's just too expensive. So have the conversations, because some family members have been upset with family members because you cremated that person, and they're saying they would never want that. Well, if that's all you can afford to do, that's all you can afford to do. But have the conversations to find out what the wishes are, what your wishes are, so that they will be fulfilled. Just have the hard conversations with your loved ones, with your children. If you already have your trust, you have it all put together already, then have the conversation with your loved ones and let them know, hey, this is it. This is where the information is in the event something happens to me. This is the mortuary I want to go to. This is where my insurance policy is. And you have to let them know that, or they're going to be scrambling around trying to figure out stuff. Um, and it's going to be difficult. So make sure that you do that. And again, until you can get these things done, you can go to, you can contact me, and I will give you information on some places that you can go if you're looking to do it yourself, but just get something done. And so know this, that if you have a will or nothing at all, that you will be faced with going to probate. Having a trust is to avoid probate and that Medicare recovery, because we never know if we end up in a convalescent home and need to be taken care of. And we're thinking we left our kids the home, and Medicare recovery comes back to recover their money, because Medicare recovery, Medicare is a loan without interest, but they can come back. If there's a probate open, they do have the right to come back and say that they want to recover their money for your stay. And so you want to make sure that you get that covered. And again, you want to avoid probate at all costs. I know I've been asked a couple of times about a couple of different things, a couple of different deeds that you can do as far as the TOD. I'm not for sure. I have not been able to find my book with my notes in it that has the breakdown of it, but look at it and see what the pros and cons are. You have to educate yourself, so that even when you find a lawyer, you would know exactly what questions to ask and what to do, so that they don't just tell you something that sounds good, right? And so a will in all 50 states will have to go through probate, and that's what you want to avoid. You want to avoid probate at all costs, okay? So I pray that you guys heard something. You heard something. Please like, tag, and share. Please share the information. Even if you have all of your stuff together, please share the information with others. Okay. And if you just got on, go back, watch the replay, give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or leave me a comment. It really encourages me to come on each Sunday. Sometimes I could feel like I'm being repetitions, but I realize that there are still a lot of you out there that have been procrastinating about getting this done. And I don't want nothing hurts me more than for someone to lose someone and did not have these things in place, um, and know what to do. Okay, so I love you guys with the love of the Lord, and yeah, go out and be a blessing to someone else. If you have your stuff already in order, it may need a tune-up. You may have had it a while. And so you want to go back and check. Go back and check all of your bank accounts. Make sure that if you've already lost your spouse or loved ones, you may have your parent or someone that is down as beneficiaries, but they have passed away already. You want to make sure that you go back and remove that. Remove them from the house, remove them from the bank accounts, because in the event that you pass away, then your kids or your loved ones will have to go finding death certificates for everybody. And then that kind of opens up again a can of worms, because if that loved one, say, did not have any children and their names were still on some things, they won't be able to, they will give it to their next of kin, which means it could be their siblings. And this is the bank account that you had together, but because you didn't have your name on the account, they're going to give it to the next of kin. Okay. All righty. Love you guys. And I will see you guys next Sunday if the Lord says the same. Bye bye.